name's Sergio Ramirez. I'm the General Manager here at West Bay Sanitary District. I'm co-presenting today with Laura Moran, Senior Ecological Restoration Team Lead with SWCA Environmental Consultants. Laura and I are here to talk about this exciting project, the West Bay Ecotone Levee project on the San Francisco Bay here in Northern California. West Bay Sanitary District provides wastewater collection and conveyance services for the city of Menlo Park, the town of Atherton, the town of Portola Valley, and areas of East Palo Alto, Woodside, and unincorporated San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. The project consists of raising the levee, which was constructed in the 1950s around the flow equalization facility at the top of the screen. The site is adjacent to sloughs right in the bay and the Bedwell Bayfront Park. The district conveys raw wastewater via the Menlo Park pump station to our regional treatment plant. Under normal operation, 3 million gallons per day of wastewater flow from residential and commercial customers by gravity to the Menlo Park pump station at the bottom of the screen. It then gets pumped to the regional treatment plant, Silicon Valley Clean Water. The flow equalization facility is used in extreme conditions or during planned maintenance, in the force main leading to the plant or at the plant itself. Now buckle up and let's fly over the site to have a better understanding of this exciting project. This drone footage was used during the environmental review process to allow regulators and stakeholders to virtually tour the site during the pandemic stay-at-home order. West Bay Sanitary District serves approximately 55,000 residents across 5 communities within San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. One of our facilities includes this flow equalization facility, which serves as a temporary wastewater storage facility when the regional treatment system cannot accommodate our flows. If the site is impacted by the effects of climate change, residents will have interruption in wastewater service during extreme flood events. These flood events may result in backed up sewer lines, discharges of raw wastewater to adjacent communities, and other water quality environmental impacts, including the potential for cross-contamination from the facility to the bay. For this reason, West Bay Sanitary District intends to perform levee improvements by creating a living shoreline and ecotone levee to protect the district's facilities and the San Francisco Bay by removing the facility from the current 100-year floodplain and safeguarding against future sea level rise. Here we see the Bedwell Park that is visited by thousands of people daily, most of which are from underserved communities in East Menlo Park and East Palo Alto, California. We then see a view of the facility located at the edge of the flood slough in the San Francisco Baylands. Also visible is the existing levee, which is subject to breaching during extreme tide events. At the edge of the levee, or the corner of the site, is a helipad used by the San Francisco Estuary Invasive Spartina Project. This group treats invasive weeds that negatively impact the bay. Here we see pond number 1, which can store approximately 8 million gallons of raw wastewater. The second pond can store approximately 10 million gallons of wastewater if needed. As you can see, protecting this site will protect the facility from flooding, but also the San Francisco Bay from cross-contamination. This is the eastern part of the project where we plan to build the living shoreline and ecotone levee that will gently slope towards the bay, creating a space for tidal marsh habitat to migrate inland as sea level rises. Here we see the Save the Bay native tidal marsh plant nursery. Save the Bay has been contributing to regional shoreline restoration efforts for many years and is a valued project partner. We also see a view of the old Menlo Park pump station, which was decommissioned in the early 80s. Since then, the site has been used for wastewater flow equalization during significant storm events or as our regional treatment plant requires. This presentation will further describe the creation of an Ecotone levee that will serve as a living shoreline rather than a traditional vertical sheet pile levee. The living shoreline is a more natural means to protect this site, while providing habitat for fish and wildlife. We've teamed up with experts in the field who are creating living shorelines throughout the San Francisco Bay. The project will also help the region by creating continuity with other living shorelines in the area. We are very excited to be part of such an important project that aims to protect our critical infrastructure for the community and continue to provide resilient shoreline habitat over time. I hope you enjoyed that flyover. Now, the facility was previously a wastewater treatment plant, but is currently used for wastewater flow equalization, wastewater management, a Save the Bay nursery, and storage for the district's materials and equipment. Currently, the facility is protected by levees. There are areas in the levees that are lower than the FEMA floodplain elevation, which allows for 100-year flood tides to enter into the site. Furthermore, the levee is not protected against sea level rise. So just to put things into perspective, I captured this image in 2017 during a king tide event, and it really demonstrates the current conditions of this site. On the left, you see the San Francisco Bay breaching the levee and entering the site. Raising the levee is a priority, and we've come up with valuable ways to protect the site and create shoreline resiliency. Thank you so much for your time. Now Laura's going to take you through the rest of the project.
Thank you, Sergio. We are very excited to be working with West Bay and Fryer and Loretta on this exciting project. As you saw from the previous slide, the equalization basin site is already vulnerable during storm events and tides that exceed the 100-year event. This animation models inundation of the site during a 100-year event, plus 4 feet of sea level rise, which is the California guidance for the year 2080 for medium to high risk aversion, assuming low emissions and a peak water surface elevation of 14.69 feet NAVD 88. To design the levee improvements to be resilient to sea level rise while continuing to provide valuable marsh habitat, we have designed an Ecotone levee. The project will raise the grades of the perimeter access road along the existing levee to promote shoreline resiliency. The living shoreline will stretch from the levee crest to the marsh surface and will provide a wetland-upland transition zone when vegetated with native coastal scrub in the upland and high marsh plants in the transition zone. The living shoreline will attenuate waves, provide high tide refugia for marsh wildlife, and allow room for marshes to migrate upslope with sea level rise. The Ecotone levee essentially provides a ramp from the new levee elevation down to the marsh. Higher elevations adjacent to the new levee will provide an area for the marsh to migrate over time with sea level rise. While the salt marsh is a natural community, the man-made levee is dominated by sparse, non-native vegetation and subject to regular human disturbance, which diminishes the habitat value of the levee. The project will create a wider upland transition zone planted with native vegetation between existing salt marsh habitat and the levee on the north side of the project site. The proposed approximately 3.5-acre living shoreline will provide higher quality native upland refugia habitat as well as a natural wildlife corridor. As Sergio mentioned, this Ecotone levee is part of a regional effort to extend resilient living shoreline around San Francisco Bay. Our project is north of the Bedwell Bayfront Park and the South Bay Salt Pond project at Ravenswood. This animation also models inundation of the site during a 100-year event plus 4 feet of sea level rise, but with the levee road improvements and Ecotone levee in place. Between 70% and 93% of historic wetlands within San Francisco Bay estuary have been lost to agriculture, salt production, and urbanization over the past 100 years. Within the San Francisco Bay estuary, tidal wetlands with intact, undeveloped upland habitats contain the largest remaining populations of special status species. In addition, the San Francisco Bay estuary is one of the most important staging and wintering areas for migratory waterfowl and shorebirds in the Pacific Flyway. Construction of the project will mitigate for permanent loss of wetlands from projected sea level rise. In addition, the proposed project will conserve and create marsh and upland habitat that is critical for special status species such as salt marsh harvest mouse and California ridgeways rail, fish, and migratory birds, in addition to protecting the bay from serious raw sewage contamination occurring when storm surge and sea level rise breach the flow equalization facility. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation today. Several of our team members are attending the session today to answer your questions and look forward to connecting during this session and during the remainder of the conference.